And we're live again. Eventually, the streams will become more high effort. Let me turn on a light so you can see my beautiful mustache. All right. We're going back to Release because the whole point is to make a comic book. And so we're doing that. I was thinking about I should draw Wolverine because you got Deadpool Wolverine coming out now. And I really should be doing more like self-promotion marketing. People would click on Wolverine, but I've been hammering out this page in between, work and life and taking care of my dog, family. But it's going to get done. It's coming. It's not going to stop moving forward. Question is this morning the morning I'm going to get any live viewers? I spent way too much time trying to figure out what the outfit was this girl was going to wear. Or maybe not enough time. But I decided that in the future, they would wear clothing kind of inspired by popular manga, stuff like that. And so she's wearing kind of like a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure inspired short jacket here. So I got the Whitest Kids You Know on because they got a 24-hour stream. See, if I wasn't doing this live, doing it live is a way to make me actually do it too. Because otherwise, some of these lines that I'm putting down, I would have been like, hell. Just like flip the table, go eat breakfast. So in the future, you're going to have these little bangles that are drones that you can flip out and it'll spin around you and take a picture. It's kind of like a panoramic selfie. That when people look at it through their like VR HUD, they can kind of see you from different angles. Sorry, like I said before, I'm watching the white. I need to turn this shit off because it's hard to focus on drawing when I got a family on a hot air balloon. He's like, anyway, don't worry about it. Just closing that shit up. We'll just do this in silence. I ought to have like music that I listen to. I ought to have a lot of things, but every time I think about it, I'm like, you know what I ought to be doing is drawing the effing comic book. See, that looks okay. If you zoom out, it looks okay. If I zoom in, well, I guess it looks okay there too. Maybe I'm actually okay at this. I'm so used to drawing things and then looking at it and being like, I could do that better. And then I'll erase it, start again. I actually don't think I'm that good of an artist. So let's move on to this fuss. It's easy to get discouraged if you're working on a comic book because people don't really read them. The general population, I don't think really appreciates them. But I feel like if you're gonna make like a if you want to make a cartoon, like if you want to make something that's going to pierce the mainstream or the culture, or whatever you want to say, then you got to start somewhere. But yeah, it takes a team to make a cartoon, and like a good way to get like a proof of concept. Because think about, Japan makes manga and then they make anime from the manga. Without the manga, there would be no animes. Or the animes would be, the animators are shooting in the dark wondering what's going to stick instead of having a pre-made story that they can just animate. They have a freaking uh, blueprint for what to make right there. So I do think Release is really only going to have a chance. It starts out as a comic book. Sorry, somebody's missing something at work. Oh, shit. Hell, I forgot I was giving her earrings. It's amazing how shit goes missing at work. So I'm a bartender. Those of you who are watching this who don't know what the hell I do for a living, because you've followed me here off Instagram, and there's people who are not, my immediate co-workers or whatever on there. Like, how do you lose the blade off a mandolin? Where the hell does that go? And the freaking little spritz thing that we use for the cups. Somebody lost the little nut on the front of it. Like when you unscrew the little nut so you can clean the contraption off, how do you not track it and make sure it's there before you leave? Ridiculous. Oh well, it's the service industry. Gonna happen. Made the mistake of commenting on a Twitter post yesterday because I've been getting into independent comic books, crowdfunded comic books, because that's where I want to be. That's where I'm going to be. And one company is called the Ripaverse, and it's this guy, Eric July, who has been like a libertarian YouTuber influencer for a while. So he like built up a big audience. He's complaining about, Disney and shit being woke forever. He's a black dude, so he gets to be like the token black conservative friend for a bunch of these people. I shouldn't say things like token black, but I mean, come on. You can kind of tell, like, if the product is not good, and you got a bunch of people like, oh, check out, they just want to see a black man succeed. Who can blame them? But the comics aren't good. But what's amazing is like the business strategy that he's using, where all of his, like, he's got a Mac club, kind of like, the Tate brothers had their Hustlers University, where you would pay them so that they can give you like red pill content, personalized red pill content, like uh, teaching dudes not to be simps, basically. So Ripa's got this Mac club where people just pay him, and I don't even know what they get from being a member. Like, I'm really baffled by it. Because I couldn't imagine charging my fans $50 a month for just like more access to me. And then they would get to become my little Twitter army. And they would go out and defend my business decisions. So, like, Mr. Young Ripa 59, who started the Ripaverse like last year, summer 2023, they launched their first books. And it was like all this fanfare, and they had all this support across like all the indie community. Comicsgate is like an independent comic book faction that sort of sprung out from creators who were like canceled from the mainstream because they supported Trump. A bunch of them, they feel like they were forced out of like DC comic books and stuff. And he had their support. And one thing that it's like a double-edged sword when it comes to independent artists and stuff like that. And I saw this when I was making movies, where people are just supportive generally, which is great, but then how do you trust an endorsement? How do you trust someone endorsing a comic book or an independent movie or whatever when you know that that person's just trying to help somebody succeed? Even if the product, the movie, the comic book might not be the best, you know? I feel like I value realness. I value genuine, honest feedback. When I come out with release, I want real feedback. If people hate it, tell me. And be specific if you can. If you're able to articulate why it is you don't like something, that's useful. I did my one review of the Blood and the Sword book by Richard Embry. And that's one that I keep seeing people recommend. Like, I'm not going to harp on it. I don't want to beat up on the guy. I want because he's still doing it. If you're still doing it, I want it to get better. I want to be helpful. I gave an honest review. I didn't call it crap or anything like that. I wasn't like, I'm not a huge asshole. I was just like, listen, you need more. You need something to actually be happening other than this. For details, go watch my review of Blood and the Sword on my channel. I don't have too many videos. It is a short scroll through the channel to find that review. And I got a digital copy of John Bua's, what was it called again? I forget the actual name of the comic book. Like, his superhero is called the Patriarch, and I guess he's like a dad who has to juggle being a dad and a superhero for the world. And I'm gonna review freaking. The thing that pisses me off about that book already is that I've heard so much about. Oh yeah, it's called Heroic Tales. Heroic Tales is a return to Blue Sky comic book adventure. And it's like I've been hearing about this thing forever. And then I go to get a digital copy of it. And they say, oh, you're not going to get this till what? August, October? I forget. But I still see, like, he'll post 4 times in an hour. Just, the same cover or like the different covers. Like, come back my book, come back my book, come back my book. But it's like, I can't read it yet. Like, why are you so aggressively pushing it? I'd be like, it would be one thing if, okay, I follow you, you have commentary, whatever, and every day maybe you'll post once for the link. But am I going to have to be doing that? I'm not going to start doing that until I'm like about done. Until I'm like a week out from releasing a digital copy so that people can read it in a reasonable time frame, because I know I felt disappointed. I didn't read, because I reread the paragraph afterwards and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to get this till later. I had just assumed it was done already because I had seen so much advertisement for it. But still, I get on Twitter and it's over and over and over again. I'm seeing this thing and I'm like, it better be fucking good. Like, I'm gonna review it, and if it's gay as hell, I'm gonna say so. Like, you will never look to me for a dishonest, glowing review. I will have specific criticisms. But I think it needs a better hook. I know he's like, oh, Blue Sky superhero. So, okay, so you're doing like aspirational superhero stories. You're not pushing any boundaries, is what you're telling me, is what I'm hearing. So it's already like not terribly exciting. They got him. I keep seeing the same image of his hero fighting a spider, but it's like an awkward, like punchy pose. Like, if like, here, I'll just real quick, because in the scene you got a spider, right? Big mechanical spider coming from this angle. right? And then you have the patriarch doing like an uppercut, okay? Like that. And my thing is, if the spider's coming at you from this direction, you're not going to uppercut the damn spider. You're gonna do like more of a straight punch. That's another thing that I want. I want for release is I want the fights to feel cool, you know. And also, if you can fly, I don't know, man. The whole thing. I'll read it. I'll read it and find out if it's any good, or if my fears are valid, and it turns out that it's just like a freaking lazy attempt. But not everybody has the muse. You know what I mean? Not everyone is a great writer. That's obvious, just looking at the landscape. I'm not going to claim to be a great writer, but I have a lot of confidence in myself. I feel like the writing is the best thing about release. Like, I'm working on the artwork. I'm working on myself as far as like being a good artist is concerned. God, that shape is no good. Starting the YouTube channel just to try and get, my voice out there a little bit. She's not holding on to anything down here with her hand. She's just kind of doing a little fish. She's really just putting her arm down so she can push her boob over a little bit. But I'm really only going to start aggressively advertising once I have the first 27 pages done. And then those are going to be, you're going to be able to read them online. So then people can judge. People can judge and people can critique, and I can get some feedback and get this thing going. Get the story out there. Because America's just going to keep falling behind Japan when it comes to having fresh ideas. I saw a while back when I went back to my hometown and I visited a comic book shop, and I'm trying to express myself to these guys and tell them, like, dude, we need fresh ideas. Japan comes out with fresh ideas every 5 or 6 years. They'll have another whole round of IP. They're not constantly resuscitating the same characters that have been around since the 70s. They're like, well, Marvel's trying to do that right now with the new Avengers and blah, blah, blah. But all those characters are derivative of the old characters. Like, now DC Universe is coming out with the absolute DC Universe. They got a new Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman coming out. And it kind of looks like crap. It kind of looks like these should be new characters, but you're just trying to get the brand to continue. The brand must continue. The IP must survive. very close, I feel like, to having the line work done on this page. Oh yeah, I was talking about the Rippaverse before I got slightly interrupted there. So yeah, I had made the mistake of commenting on a thread where this guy's like, "Why do people hate Eric July? I just don't get it." And it's like, you can't. Like, are you serious? Because like I said, he started out. He had the support of like Comicsgate and all these factions. These guys were giving him like nice reviews, like saying, "Oh, he's good. It's a really good ever." And I can tell just because, like I said before, I had uh, done like an independent movie back in like '08, and I've seen how just blanket support. I know what it looks like when you're giving non-specific compliments and saying things like, "Oh, it looks good. It looks professional." You're not actually giving a good endorsement if you're not saying anything about the book. Um, so then when somebody does give an accurate like take on it, they're these guys I assume all these guys are in the Mac Club because they come out and defend him anytime there's any criticism online. His strategy for promoting the book is just to silence any and all criticisms, which I think is it's an interesting strategy. I don't think it's going to work out, but it's interesting. And then, so I stayed out of the personal stuff, like, because there's plenty of people that are like, "Oh, well, we hate it because he sold a book for $35, and then we find out that the artwork is a lot of it's just filtered 3D assets that he found online. He didn't use 3D assets as reference. He just put them through a filter in I think they narrowed it down. It was like some Clip Studio paint filter or something. There's a comic book filter you can get. And so in the book, like, his living room's just a complete 3D asset that got put through a filter. And then there's these lazily put in like texture brushes in the background. So it looks like a tire drove across the page, but it's like this is supposed to be a shadow. It was not a hand-drawn effort. I'm putting in a hand-drawn effort here. That being said, if I can find a way to effectively use 3D assets, maybe I will. I don't feel like I'm averse to shortcuts, but I'm going to be honest if I'm using them. But my criticism was because I read the book, the first one, it had a ton of hype behind it. I'm like, look, it had a ton of hype behind it. The first book made $4 million. If you have 500,000 subscribers on YouTube and you get 10% of those people to spend, in my opinion, an obscene amount of money on comic books. Like, I'm amazed at how much money people spend on things. I'm not a person who has money, so I'm always amazed. I'm buying digital copies of books. I'm trying to think of ways to make release more accessible to the wider public because I want more readership. I want people to talk about the story, spread the story around, gain like a good number of fans. But this guy's got like the average purchaser spending like $500 on merchandise and stuff. And I'm like, God damn, dude. But I found a cheap copy and I'm like, okay, you $4 million. And if you had delivered a good story instead of just introducing a bunch of characters, because he's really like trying to promote the idea of, oh, it's a brand new universe to get lost in, you guys. Come along. Join the Rippaverse. And I'm like, that's just not, it's not gonna hook me. Okay. Maybe you'll retain some audience, but you're not growing. Dick Masterson, who was calling it a grift from the outset, because he's like, this is a right-wing influencer grift. It's not an honest effort into making comic books, which is confusing because, like, you look at if you look at Ripa's content, I think he does love comic books. I think he is a comic book fan. So it amazes me that he can't take an objective look at his stuff and be like, this needs to get better. Like, why don't you demand excellence from yourself if you're an artist? And it's because he's not an artist. He is a businessman. But anyway, Dick Masterson posts this little chart that shows that the number of unique purchasers has been going down with every campaign. From ISOM 1 to ISOM 2, Alpha Core, the number of people coming to purchase is going down. You are selling to a dwindling audience, and that's what I said. I decided to chime in and just be like, look, if he did a good job, those numbers would be going up, not down. Because somebody took that post from that that chart that was posted and was like, why do these guys seem to be cheering on Ripa's downfall? I don't understand. Like, let me break it down for you. And I'll keep it simple because there's plenty of people already talking about the 3D assets part of it. You know, there's no need for me to repeat the same thing as everyone else over and over and over endlessly. That's just not my style. It's not my way. I wanted release to be different. And if I did not feel like I had a good, unique story, I would not be creating a comic book. I would be trying to go into restaurant management. I work at a very nice restaurant, and if I am really nice to them, maybe they'll give me an opportunity. If this fails, if it turns out, if reality dawns on me and it turns out I'm bad at this and that I can't make a living on it, then I'm just going to be like, You know, I could do some really good work as a manager, I feel like. This is Hayden getting dejected a little bit because he's like, God, my fucking life. I wish it had a purpose, and it will have a purpose soon enough, Hayden. Soon enough, I will give you purpose. As I gave you life, I will give you purpose. As your creator. Should it be more dramatic than that, though? Than just sort of hanging his head? Should I put his head like all the way down into his hands? Definitely move his eye down a little bit. But anyway, so this guy comes around, and my thing is, okay, if you want people to come back, if you want that number to grow, you gotta give us a hook. You gotta have a hook better than, hey, look at my characters. You gotta do a little better. I brought up City of Heroes. City of Heroes was a MMO game from back in like the mid 2000s, and they created their own backstory universe. But it's another example of generic superhero universe where they have their own version of Hydra. They have their own version of the Justice League. And I'm like, look at that and look at what Ripa made and tell me he did any better than that. Really. Like, his goal seems to be, I'm going to create a super generic spandex man, self-insert spandex man, and he's not going to do anything of significance. You're just going to, it's another day in Flores Park, Texas. That's kind of the whole plot. Where's the fucking plot? Like, and that's what I'm trying to explain to these guys. But they're like, man, you want us to read it for you and explain to you why it's good? It's like, shut the fuck up, dude. Just fuck off. Like, I really just need to not interact with those people anymore. It's a waste of my damn time. Such a dumb marketing strategy. Where it's like, in order to attract new customers, I'm going to shut down anyone who points out the truth about my comic book. And the dude's like, I get a feeling you don't even read very many comic books because blah, 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 blah. It's like, dude, I almost didn't respond to that dickhead because he didn't really say anything worth responding to. But I still came back and was like, listen, it is what it is. If he wants new customers, if you want that bar graph, you want the graph to go up and not down, you're going to need to do something to generate interest. Because I poked fun at the whole NDA thing. Because these guys, whenever they're questioned about like the story or anything at a comic book convention anywhere, they just say, "Oh, NDA. I'm not allowed to tell you these things. Hey, you got this Icelandic super heroine." It's like, "Hey, where's she from?" NDA. You couldn't just say, "Well, it's mysterious." You know. You couldn't explain, "Okay, well, uh couldn't say, "Oh, her origins will be revealed," or something. Something. Have a line. Like, I feel like if anyone starts asking me about Release, I'm going to talk to them about it. And if they ask me something that I don't want to share right away, then I just won't share it. And I'll just be like, hey, well, if you want to know how or it's hard to think of like what would somebody ask? Be like, what's Hayden's deal? I'd be like, or how does he factor into the main story arc? And I'd be like, well, he's going to get dragged into a plot to destroy humanity. He will end up being, despite the fact that we have two superheroes on the planet, he's going to be the only one capable of preventing the apocalypse. He's going to be the only one who finds out it's coming because there are shadows, there are machinations, there is another villain that is yet to be revealed that supersedes what we know. If that makes any sense. It's hard to talk and draw at the same time. I need to talk into the microphone is what I need to do. Not to be like, oh. I'm drawing. That doesn't look too bad now. I think it looks better than it did for sure. We've been going for about an hour. I think, I'll call it. I'll call it and go eat breakfast. Thank you to the 0 people that tuned in while I was live and the 4 people who will see this video in the next week or so. Hope you're able to fall asleep while listening to my voice. Take care.